Good evening. I'm Dee Hatcher, Program Consultant with National Black MBA Association. I want to welcome you to another amazing webinar experience. Tonight's webinar is another perfect example of membership benefits and year-round programming that's available to you. With that said, I'd like to remind you that you still have time to register for our virtual conference and career fair, an opportunity you definitely do not want to miss. A link to register will be posted at the end of the webinar, so make sure you go in and grab it and get registered. Tonight, we're discussing job searching and an economic downturn, a very fitting and timely topic as COVID-19 pandemic forced a record number of businesses to close their doors, leaving many out of work and back into a more competitive job market. We are honored to have tonight's facilitator, Darylyn Walker, who is an experienced talent acquisition professional with a reputation of successfully recruiting outstanding talent like yourselves for top roles within organizations. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Darylyn.
Thank you so much, Dee. It is such an honor to be here today, and I'm so glad that National Black MBA chose me to speak today on such an amazing topic. Actually, an economic downturn is something that can definitely be unexpected, but it's something that we can all traverse together. Just to give you a little bit of my background, my name is Darylyn Walker, and I am a talent acquisition specialist for the city of Detroit. I currently recruit for the mayor's office, for all of IT, and for the health department for the city. So needless to say, I've been very busy over the last 3 to 5 months. My experience spans the country. I've recruited for engineering and IT professionals. I've recruited in the educational industry as well. So I really feel like this information is something that's needed, and I'm very passionate about making sure that people can find the best opportunities that they're looking for. So the first thing I want you to know is that there is still hope. Yes. When you're reading the newspapers and you're reading online, we all know that hiring has slowed down, but companies are still actively recruiting. A lot of companies have moved and have had the time to move to an online remote model. And some companies, they need essential workers. So even though a lot has stopped, the world hasn't stopped. So continue to prepare yourself for a new career. It's something that is exciting, and it's something that you can do today. Now, when we talk about the industry outlook, these are some of the employer hiring trends that I was able to pull within the last week. So 92% of employers are not revoking full-time offers. If they're making offers to candidates, it's because they need you right now, especially in the IT field and anything that can be done remotely. People are still looking for people to work. 82% of employers have increased their diversity recruiting efforts, which is also an upside in this time. They're looking for candidates that fit the mold. They're looking for people that have different experiences that they can bring to the table. This will only enrich their organization. 58% of employers plan to start candidates virtually, which is something that is really awesome. A lot of onboarding has been switched to virtual, and it's very contactless. And 55% of employers plan to increase their virtual recruiting. I received countless invitations to universities to come to their virtual career fairs. It's something new, and it's something that's exciting, but it's also something that helps you to increase your candidate pool. Just imagine if you have always been the person that worked in New Hampshire, or you've always worked in Detroit, or you've always worked in Atlanta. Being able to work virtually now, it opens up the pool. So now you can live in Denver and work in Indiana. You can live in New Hampshire and work in New York or in Atlanta. So it's definitely an opportunity. And something that I want us all to keep in mind, 30% of candidates hired overall are employee referrals. So if you know someone who knows someone who knows someone who works for a company that you're interested in, you have more of a chance of getting hired, or at least an interview through that employee referral. So the 3 takeaways that I want for you to have today is relationship building, knowing what's in your toolbox, and how to virtually interview. And we'll definitely go through these 3 in depth today. Before we get started, we're going to talk about the organizational structure. And I get really excited when I talk about this because a lot of people don't understand what an org structure is. So it really refers to the departments or the business units within an organization that make up a company. So of course, every corporate structure is going to be different. The way that Domino's is set up is definitely going to be set up differently than a Hertz or an Enterprise, just because of the product that they're using and the supply chain that it has to go through to get that product to the finish line. But each division or department usually performs a specialized function while also collaborating to achieve the corporate goals or values. Now, this is important. I know you're saying, why is this important? This is important to understand, where does your skill set fit in? Are you more in the finance area? Are you more in human resources? Are you in IT? Are you in operations? Where does your skill set lie? If you are a writer or an editor, will you see yourself more in the IT area where you're doing content, or will you see yourself in marketing? This is something to really research when you're looking at different companies that you're looking to apply to, because you want to make sure that you're connecting with the right people and that you're connecting yourself to the right jobs, because a job description is very important, but a job title can be very misleading. So you want to always make sure that you understand the organizational structure of whatever company you're looking to apply to and where your skill set fits in. Now, when we talk about relationship building, it's probably more than what you think. We're really talking about thinking strategically about making connections, whether that be through identifying and strategizing how your skill set and educational background fits into the marketplace, or revamping and revising your resume and your cover letter, which is very important. So when we talk about revamping and revising your resume and your cover letter, it definitely depends on the industry that you're in. For example, if you're an editor or a content writer, you're going to want to make sure that your cover letter is stellar. You're going to want to make sure that your resume looks exceptional, because they're going to be looking specifically at how you set up something and what wording you use to describe your background and your experiences. When you're talking about being a human resource professional, they're going to want to see what like your time to fill. They're going to want to see the companies that you've worked for, any certifications that you've got in that field. So it's very important that you're making sure that you're revamping and revising your resume to make it fit. Also, strengthening online connections. This is something that I'm passionate about as well, because when we're talking about really understanding your skill set and your background, what you want to do and where you want to go, the best way to figure out what your path will be or what it could possibly look like is by strengthening your online connections. Right now, during COVID-19, most organizations like National Black MBA are hosting a myriad of webinars through their pages, through Instagram, and through different funnels. So you want to make sure that you connect yourself to those organizations, connect yourself to the decision makers or to people who can give you insight on what that organization is about. Also, creating a LinkedIn profile is something that's very important. As a recruiter, I am on LinkedIn probably about 75% of the day, because I'm looking for candidates and I'm speaking with candidates. I'm talking to them about job opportunities within the city of Detroit. And I've done that with every recruitment position that I've had. LinkedIn is a great place because you're able to search and source for candidates that fit your background. So I think it's so important that you create that LinkedIn profile and really get a good grasp of who you can connect with on there. Now, identifying and strategizing. One, I do want to say that if you look to your right, you will see companies that are hiring now. Now, I know you're going to say, well, some of these companies aren't in my area. I completely understand that. But a lot of companies, again, are hiring remote workers. So it's definitely something that you want to look into. So you're going to look into companies that may not necessarily be close to you, but they may have a position open that fits your skill set and your background. There's nothing wrong with applying or connecting yourself with people in the industry that you are working in. If you're a finance person, definitely working for a company like E-Trade or Capital One will be a great fit. But every company has a finance area. So applying to any of these other organizations will be great as well. So definitely opening up yourself to opportunities outside of your comfort zone. Also, rebranding your profiles. So employers review social media profiles, not just LinkedIn, but they look at your Instagram, they look at your Facebook, and a lot of recruiters will go on and they will just type your name in Google and see what pops up. So you want to make sure that you can keep your social media clean and private if possible. And then also online business pages. Most professional orgs have converted, like I said, to webinars and Zoom meetings. So definitely connect online, build relationships, connect with them on LinkedIn, develop those relationships, and then see where that goes. Because again, if you are looking to build your business community, you're going to want to build it with like-minded individuals. If you're an accountant, you would like to know more accountants so that you can also continue to stay abreast of new opportunities. You can stay abreast of new positions and new companies that are popping up. So it's always great to develop that business community, and LinkedIn is a great place to do that. So revamping and revising. So I look at about 100 resumes a day for various positions within the city of Detroit. And a lot of times a recruiter will only look at a resume for maybe 30 seconds just to get a really good idea or a really good synopsis of who that person is as a whole. So you want to make sure that you avoid some major mistakes. Of course, typos, missing dates, listing duties are all mistakes. And what I mean by listing duties is if you're an executive assistant and you put typing, answering phones, that's just listing your duty. But if you were to say reports directly to 5 senior executives handling this, and this, that is telling exactly what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So now I know, okay, well, this is an executive administrative assistant and she has experience working with executives. That's important. If I'm a recruiter, I'm going to put that I work with 50 positions on a daily basis. That's my usual caseload, and that I fill candidates' positions within 30 to 60 days. That's something that's measurable, that's tangible, that the recruiter can look at and say, okay, this is the skill set and the background that this person has. Also, varied resumes for varied experience. I always go back to the writer or the marketer type of person, because you can be a writer and you may be on the marketing side. So your resume may focus more on sales, where you had to sell something and you had to write something and you had numbers and different things of that nature. So that resume, that marketing resume, is definitely going to be tailored to positions that are that type of marketing. But then you may have a writer who only writes articles or editorials and publishes things. That resume is going to be different. You always want to make sure that you're reviewing the job description. When you review the job description, you're going to make sure that you pull out keywords that fit in with the job description, and they should be on your resume. Always make sure that your job description your resume lines up with the job description. Use specific career-related words. If there's software that's used in your industry, make sure that you include that on your resume. I know when you work in the education field, there's systems like Banner that you have to use. So that needs to be on your resume, because as a recruiter, again, when we are looking at candidates on the other side of the screen, you have 1,000 people that have applied for one position. Well, if I know they need to have this specific system to be successful in this role, I'm going to use my keyword search and type in Banner. Or I'm going to type in, as a recruiter, ISOMS is an applicant tracking system. I may type in ATS, and then I may type in ISOMS. So then all of the resumes that have that information will pull up. So make sure that you use your keywords, not too much, but just enough to be recognized and for them to know your skill set and how well you're able to speak to that. Now, when we talk about strengthening online connections, you're already doing that. So professional organizations, what professional organizations align with your interests? Of course, National Black MBA. But what if you're into journalism, National Association of Black Journalists? Or if you're an accountant or an engineer, how are you connecting yourself to these organizations? One, it's not just you receiving information and you getting a job from these organizations, but it's you, again, developing that community of like-minded individuals that have the skill set that you are looking to acquire or have acquired. And it helps you along the way. It's very important. I would sign up for their podcast, any online networking events, any organizations that are connected to that. It's just a great resource. Also, online job boards. Oh, to go back to that, and when we talked about in the beginning how referrals, if you have developed this community, once positions become available, and sometimes even before they post to the general public, they may think of you before they post that position to say, hey, she will be a great asset. Why don't we reach out to her before we post this position, because I think that she would fit what we're looking for. So again, joining professional organizations will be a great opportunity for you to strengthen your online connections. Online job boards. Again, employer referrals are the top source of hire, and Indeed ranks as a top internal source of hire. I know you're thinking, I've applied on Indeed before. I would apply 10 times a day or 20 times a day, and I never got anything back. Nobody ever reached out to me, or I got rejected. It's not it's a marathon. So you want to make sure that you are taking your time, and it may take longer than you anticipated. So it's going to take time to be able to find the right opportunity for you. So just continue to build your network. Continue to learn as much about your industry as you can. Continue to apply to opportunities that may be a fit for what you're looking for. Joining those alumni groups, those local job seeker groups. I know that I have posted positions on Facebook and in different Facebook groups. I know that Atlanta specifically has a Facebook group where people say, I'm looking for a job, I have this skill set, and there are recruiters in there actively pulling candidates from that Facebook group. So I think it's so important to not only be a part of these job boards, but to also engage and, again, to build that community. So your resource toolbox. What skills can you obtain to bring more to the table? You may say, I have my master's degree, I have certifications, what else do I need? Well, sometimes just taking an extra course or getting an extra certification will connect you to someone in that field that may get you an opportunity that you may not have had before. As far as statistics go, 87% of people learning for professional development report career benefits like getting a promotion, a raise, or starting a new career. 87%, that is a big number. So there are organizations like Coursera Online, UDEMY, LinkedIn Learning, local university online seminars. These are great resources for you to build your community. This is how people are going to know that you are serious about your industry and that you want to get noticed and you want to get an opportunity. Of course, it's a give and take, but at the end of the day, you're learning more about your passion, more about your profession, and you're developing those relationships. And along the way, you've gotten these certifications and developed this community, this online community that you can learn from and grow from. Now, mastering the virtual interview. Okay, so we have revamped and revised our resume. We've created our LinkedIn profile. We've connected with online businesses that we're interested in working for. We have applied on LinkedIn, we've applied on Indeed, we've developed relationships with recruiters. A recruiter has reached out to us, and now we are ready for the interview. Now, I know what you're thinking. What's going to be the biggest difference between a virtual interview and an in-person interview? I was actually doing virtual interviews today, and it definitely makes a difference. When you are doing a virtual interview, sometimes you are looked at a little bit more just because everyone notices what's around you. They notice if there's any noise in the background. They notice what you have on. It's looked at a little bit more stringent. So you want to make sure that you understand the intricacies of mastering that virtual interview. So some do's and don'ts I have. First, test your technology prior to the interview. I always say logging on to whatever system, whether it's Zoom or if they use another system ahead of time, and just making sure that the quality of the video is there. I've had interviews where I couldn't see the person, or I've only been able to see their eyes, or they chose not to show their face, or and we can only hear their voice. So those are kind of dings, because we're looking to try to get to know you as a recruiter. We're looking to get a feel for who you are. And the best way to do that is for you to present yourself and for the quality to be as good and as clear as possible. Clear your background of any distractions. So you want to make sure that there's no one in the background, no one's walking through the door, that it's quiet in the background, and make sure that your lighting is good. I would always check my lighting ahead of time and work the lighting to your advantage. And treat it the same as an in-person interview. You're going to want to make sure that you're paying attention. Stay engaged, refrain from being on your phone, and try not to interrupt. Now, you may say, well, I'll have my resume in front of me, and I may have another computer over here where I have notes on it. Always communicate. I know when I interview candidates, I always say, if we're looking down or if we're looking to the side, please continue to talk, because we're taking notes throughout the interview, and we just want to make sure that we capture as much information as we can. So I would always say, if you're going to have a resume, an actual physical resume, which I suggest, printed out for you, that when you do that, just let them know that you have that and that you may be looking down from time to time. Don't show up late or unprepared. I know it's a virtual interview. You're at home or at a coffee shop, and your interview starts at 1 p.m. Don't log on at 1 p.m. Try to log on at like 12:50, 12:55, just to give yourself some time. Be sure to have questions available for the manager and your resume available to email to them quickly for review. Sometimes with hiring managers, they're on the go. So I would always suggest that you have that physical or that physical resume for yourself, digital resume to say, hey, I have my resume in front of me. Did you need a copy? I can send it to you really quickly. No walking around or interviewing on a mobile device. I would suggest that you always use a computer or a laptop to do your interviews. It's a better connection and it's stable. So we know that you won't be moving around, and 9 times out of 10, you won't have an interruption in connection. And also belaboring the interview. You may have questions that you want to ask, but definitely respect the time of the interviewer. Even though we're virtual and we're not moving from meeting to meeting to meeting, 9 times out of 10, that recruiter or that hiring manager has interviews back to back to back. So if you have some questions, and I would definitely gear your questions toward the job and not, do you think that I'm a good fit for this position? That will always be the best. Now, if you have 3 questions, I think 3 questions are great. And then if you have any additional questions, make sure to always ask for their contact information afterward so that you can email them any additional questions, and then also send a thank you note. I know that one thing that I've dealt with hiring managers is feeling that they're being asked, so do you think that my skill set is a fit for this position? Well, that's kind of a hard question to ask answer, because I obviously thought that you were a good fit because I brought you in for an interview. So I would definitely, when you're thinking about your 3 questions that you're wanting to ask the hiring manager, talk about operations. ask what they're looking for this person to do when they come in the next 90 days. So what do you see this person doing within the next 90 days to make a difference within the organization? Also, a good question to ask as far as operations is concerned, who would this person report to directly, or does this person have any direct reports? A really great question is this position a new position, or is it a position that someone left? And if they did leave, why? Sometimes they may not tell you why, but I think that that's always a great question to ask. If it's a new position, then there's a whole another set of questions that you can ask about this new position. And that may be something that you may say, I don't know, because it hasn't been, the position hasn't been structured well. You just never know. You just never know. So I would always make sure that you have operational based questions that you ask when you go, when you ask your questions at the end, and always have questions to ask at the end. They will answer a lot of the questions during the interview. But yes, definitely stay away from, do you think that I'm a good fit for this position? Or do you see anything on my resume that doesn't match up with what you've, done? Yeah. So that's everything that I have for you guys. I see that we do have some questions. I'm in the Q&A. Let's see, so I'm gonna go here. I did have one question. Will the slides be available for attendees? Yes, I will send that information to Dee for you all to have. Another question, how do you take a consultant, contractor, and temporary worker resume with 11 years experience into a concise resume? Many recruiters do not want to look at the resume because of working these types of positions, and the candidate has been actively seeking a permanent position. So I have some questions within that. Now, if you're a consultant or contractor or temporary worker and you're in IT professionals definitely understand that IT, that world, that industry can be very contract-like. When you're talking about having 11 years of experience into a concise resume, if you've been a consultant, a contractor, or a temporary worker, were you working as a 1099 employee, or were you working as a just an employee with the organization, a W-2? So I have a lot of questions, and so I'm not sure who that was, but you can definitely reach out to me, and then we can talk about that a little bit more in depth, and I can help you with that. Let's see, I think I have some more questions here. Let's see. This is Mike. Do you have any recommendations for how to manage professional organization membership for people changing jobs? As far as changing industry or changing jobs? I guess I'm not sure. And then, so Mike, if you could answer that, that would be great. Are virtual backgrounds frowned upon? Do you mean for your interview? Now, no. So it also depends on the type of virtual background. If it's a background that it's clouds or an office, something like that, then of course it's not frowned upon. So I don't think that you would have any issues with that. Let's see. When the interviewer asks about salary expectation at the start of the process, what is the best way to answer that question? So I would definitely say when they ask, you should have your research and know what that industry yields. And that's something that you can pull online. I can actually send a website that you can go to, and you can search by state what that industry yields, what the average is. So if they're looking for someone that works in finance and it's like an accountant position or a financial analyst position, it'll tell you what that range is because it does vary by state. But I would always say, look at what that range is and then determine what your salary is. And then you can always say, but I'm negotiable depending on benefits, salary, paid time off, whether or not they pay for it. Some organizations, like I know the City of Detroit paid for my SHRM membership. They do pay for certifications and things of that nature. So that's something that could be looked at in totality. But I would definitely say when they ask that question, you need to have a number, and you can research that information online and compare it to what you're looking for. Let's see. Okay, Mike, I saw you said changing industries. Let's see. So I would look to see what industry you're looking to transition into and see what professional organizations are out there. A lot of, there's pretty much a professional organization for every industry and field. So I would definitely do that research as well. It says, is LinkedIn, this is from Kristen, is LinkedIn a great source for job searching? Absolutely. The great thing about LinkedIn is that not only can you apply for jobs, but you can also reach out to recruiters from those positions. I get emails all the time from candidates with their resumes attached saying, hey, I'm looking for an opportunity. I didn't see anything on your website, but if something does come up, please think of me, or look at my resume, or do you see anything that could be a fit? So LinkedIn is a great resource for you, not only being able to search for jobs and apply for jobs, but to connect with recruiters from the organizations that you're looking to apply to. So I would definitely, again, I'm an advocate for LinkedIn. They don't pay me, but I'm an advocate for LinkedIn. I think it's a great professional resource. Let's see. So I had a good question. What would you advise for someone who is looking for a job after a gap during this time? It definitely depends on what the gap is for. I've had candidates who have said, I went back to school. And so with me going back to school, I couldn't work full time. I've had candidates who were staying home with a sick parent. I've had candidates who were taking care of their children during that time, and they were re-entering the workforce. So I definitely think it depends on what that reasoning is. And don't be afraid to share that information. It's not going to turn them away. They obviously reached out to you and thought that your skill set and your ability was a good fit for the position. So I would definitely just explain to them, not too personal, but just enough for them to know. And also, if you're looking for a position out of state and they ask, why are you looking to leave? Well, you have interests in that state. You have a connection to that state. Like, really making sure that you explain to them where your ties lie, and why it's important for you to get back into the workforce, and why this was the organization that you're looking to be connected with. Yep, and I will send that information to you for you to search your salary. So I'll send that. Let's see. Is it okay to negotiate salary during a pandemic when jobs are so competitive? I have been doing that throughout the entire pandemic. If a company is hiring right now and they really want you, they will negotiate. Do not be afraid of negotiating. All they can say is no. If they're at the point where they're looking to make an offer, definitely ask, is there room for negotiation? They'll tell you either yes or no. If they tell you no, they're not going to rescind the offer. They still want you. So I would definitely negotiate. Let's see. This was a good question. Is it okay to ask a recruiter if a position is open to being remote? I was asked to apply for a role 5 hours away, but I asked if the position would be open to remote. Definitely right now, is a great time for that companies are even thinking about that. And you can ask if the position is going to be 100% remote and let them know that that's something that you're interested in, or if there's a way that it can be remote Monday through Thursday, and then Friday you can come into the office, or you only have to come into the office 2 days a week. That's something that companies are willing to work with you on. Let's see. These questions are great, guys. I'm just getting through all of them. Let's see. What other job boards besides LinkedIn and Indeed are helpful in the job search? I would say those are the biggest ones, the main ones that I can personally recommend. I have a position posted on Indeed right now for a position with the city of Detroit, and I have recruited and hired people from LinkedIn. So I know that they work, and I know that I can find amazing talent on those two, and I'm sure other recruiters feel the same way. I have all experience on my LinkedIn. Do I tailor my resume to the job? Is that difference okay? So as long as it's not totally different, it's okay. Because as long as you're not omitting anything, as long as you're just adding, it shouldn't be a problem. Let's see. What is usually a good turnaround to expect to hear back after a phone screen? What about an interview with the hiring manager? Should you follow up if the turnaround they gave you has passed? Great question, Shonda. I always say, ask what are the next steps in the process. They'll usually tell you, oh, it'll take about 2 weeks or the end of this week, and then we'll follow back up with you. I would always reach out after that 2 weeks and see what they say. You can reach out via email or phone. Don't bug them because they're probably busy. That recruiter and that hiring manager are hiring more than just that one position. So they're juggling multiple opportunities. So definitely reach out the one time, email the one time, and leave it at that. I always say that if a hiring manager wants you, a recruiter wants you, they will reach out to you. So this was a question about headshots for your profile on LinkedIn. Definitely make sure that your headshot is professional. Nightclub shots or party shots or family shots are not looked on as favorably. Definitely, it could be just a plain background with a nice professional shirt on that you use with your phone, but just something that's professional that can be used there. I would kind of stray away from putting your picture on your resume just because it's just not really a good practice. But having a professional LinkedIn picture is important. In these current times, how is a currently employed person looked upon when applying to a position? They always ask you, recruiters always ask you, why are you looking for a new opportunity? There could be a myriad of reasons. You could be looking for growth. You may be coming from a company that's a smaller company and you're looking to get into a larger company to get more experience. It could be because of the pandemic, your company is shutting down or is reducing their workforce. So you know within the next 6 to 8 months you won't have an opportunity. It could definitely be a lot of different reasons for why you're looking for an opportunity. So don't be shy to apply to opportunities. You don't have to, okay, as an entry-level candidate, how do you sell yourself effectively to recruiters in order to cover up for your lack of experience? So you can't cover up your lack of experience. It will shine through on your resume. And there's nothing wrong with not having the experience. So definitely they're going to know when they see your resume. And there are opportunities, a lot of opportunities available for entry-level candidates. So definitely know your stuff, know your industry, and just talk passionately about what you do know. When is it appropriate to discuss salary? So depending on the level of position, if you are someone that's a higher, let's just say like a salaried role, and you are looking for an opportunity, I would definitely say after that first interview, if they are deciding to move forward to a second interview, you can definitely start to talk about salary. I know you don't want to go through a whole interview process, but you may do the first interview and think that the position isn't a good fit. So I would definitely say give yourself the first interview to get a good feel of the position. If they invite you back for a second interview, definitely have some questions before that second interview. Yeah, so I did want to discuss a few things before we confirm the second interview. Will this position be remote, or will it have that capability with everything going on right now? What is the salary range for this position? And if you can't give me that information, what salary are you looking to offer someone in this position? And then they'll probably throw that question back at you, and that's when you start the negotiation on that. Tamaya, you said, are there any specific information, is there any specific information you would suggest for individuals wanting to transition into a new industry with limited experience? I can tell you my story. So when I first started working eons ago, I started in the educational industry. So I was an admissions recruiter. So I recruited for 4 campuses in Southeastern Michigan. And I knew that I wanted to get into full cycle recruiting, but I did not have the experience. When I applied for the positions, even though I was technically a recruiter, I had not done onboarding. I had not worked in an applicant tracking system. I had not interviewed anyone for an actual position or done anything in the interviewing process. So I took an internship at one of the largest companies in Michigan, and it was a paid internship, and I worked my way up. Some people will not have that opportunity. So I would definitely say if you can, and this is a great time now, see what companies are doing part-time internships or part-time opportunities where you can get that experience, or if you can work with someone or know someone in the industry, again, developing that community so that you can learn what skills are transferable that will get me hired. Because 9 times out of 10, you may have to start from the bottom and work yourself up. You may not have to, though. You may be luckier than I was. But just in case you do, I would definitely, again, begin to build that community of industry professionals so that they can guide you on what best steps to take. And I will be sending that salary comp info website. Let's see. What do you recommend as a follow-up for recruiters ghosting candidates? I think that is just a part of unfortunately, it's just a part of the game. Recruiters, and I'm not saying that it's right, recruiters deal with 25 to 50 positions at a time, and sometimes we just don't get a chance to go back and tell everyone thanks, but we decided to move forward with another candidate. Sometimes it could even be that they've never filled the position. I have had positions that I've recruited on and we still have not filled it because the hiring manager did not make up their mind, the funding was not there. It could be a myriad of reasons, and so we just, as a recruiter, we end up moving to the next one. So I would say charge it to their head and not their heart. They're not looking to ghost you. It's just extenuating circumstances. And again, one phone call, one email, and if they're interested, they will follow back up with you. Let's see. And I think I have enough time for a few more questions. Let's see. Is it appropriate to reduce your salary expectations and apply to jobs that may be below your prior experience to make up for a gap of an extended pre-pandemic layoff? That's up to you. I know if I'm looking at a resume and I see the experience, so what happens is if I have a position for an entry level customer service person and I see someone who has way more experience and they've applied for this position, in my mind as a recruiter, I'm thinking they're just trying to get something until they find something better. And so that makes it harder for me to hire that person because I don't want to hire someone for them to have to leave in 6 months and then for me to have to rehire someone because they found something better. So I would definitely say it's definitely up to you. But, you know, it's up to you. It's really up to you. How do we get the recruiter? This is a good question. How do we get the recruiter to share the salary range for the position? Your research could still have you on the lower end of the pay range if the company's salary is higher. Great question. Now, again, you have to know your worth. So once you do your research and you determine what you feel that you're worth, then you negotiate. So you may say, well, I did my research and I know that this position, you know, people are paid between 65 and 75,000, but I really need 80K to live. I can't go below that. Then you ask for that. If they don't offer the 80K, they may say, well, you know what, we'll go to 76, but we can give you an extra week paid time off, depending on the company structure. Not every company structure can do that. Or they may say, you know what, we'll pay for all of your certifications. We may pay for your memberships to the various business professional organizations that you're a part of. We can make up the difference, or some companies, depending on the level of the position, will pay a signing bonus. So you may say, hey, I'm really interested in this role. I know that it pays 75K at the top. I'm really worth 80. Could I get a signing bonus of 5,000 upfront and then have my regular salary of 75? Now, it doesn't cover the next year's 75, but there may be a raise that's given every year or every 2 years. So then that would at least put you closer to the 80. But there's a lot of different ways to get to what you're looking for. You just really have to go in there and not be afraid. The only thing that they can say is no. As long as you continue to express your desire to work for the organization, but your desire to be able to make sure that your ends are meeting at the end of the day, companies will continue to negotiate. If you go in thinking that it's all about money, or if they have that perception that, oh, this person just wants to get as much money as they can, they don't care about the job, then they won't. So I would definitely say, again, know your stuff, know your industry. If you know anyone who works for the company, maybe they can give you a good idea. But a lot of recruiters, I work for a government agency, so our salary ranges are open to the public, but when I did work in the private sector, we did keep those close to the vest. So definitely do your research and go for what you feel is best for you. And hopefully you can find yourself either at that point or somewhere in the middle. How far back would you go on your resume? I would say 10 years at the most. When you do the dates, of course, you go by the dates that you started and the dates that you ended. 10 years is usually a good synopsis of your experience over the last decade. And it can fit on 1 to 2 pages because a recruiter is looking at, again, 100 resumes for one position. So you want to be as succinct and detail-oriented as possible. This is a good question. How do you move from an individual contributor role to a managerial position? that would definitely be a question for your manager at whatever organization that you're working for, because they are the ones who can ultimately prepare you for that. I had someone who asked me that same question, and I said, hey, when you go into your 30, 60, 90-day review with your manager, say, hey, this is what my goal is. My goal is to be this manager position. What steps do I need to take now to prepare myself so that when an opportunity becomes available, I can get into that role, or I can at least have a shot at applying to that role? That manager, walk them through, because your manager should be doing one-on-ones with you, and if they're not, that's something that you need to talk about. That manager went through with him on his one-on-ones, like, okay, this is what you need to do. You need to do this project for your team. You need to do this team building activity. You need to do this. You need to do that. And then people started coming to him. His team members started coming to him because they started to see his leadership within the team. After 6 to 8 months, an opportunity became available. He applied and he got the position, but he was prepared by his manager. So I would definitely say that's something that you would need to reach out to your specific manager, because only they can tell you what leadership qualities look like for your organization. Can you share tips on salary negotiation, how to respond if your counter offer in the negotiation is not accepted? Well, then that leaves the question if you're going to take the opportunity or not. Sometimes companies just don't have the money. I know, working for a government agency, we can only go so high. And sometimes you have to think about it as well. If you're going into, let's say, a mechanical engineering position, and it's an opportunity that you applied for and you're looking to make 120,000, but all of the other mechanical engineers in that organization make 110, they are not going to offer you 120 because they have to be equitable across the board. That's something that companies look at. And I know from your perspective, you're probably like, they have the money, they can pay it. But at the same time, if they offer you 120, how fair is that for someone who's been at the company for 10, 12 years and has done a great job and they make 110? So sometimes it just won't be accepted, and they may not share that type of insider information with you, but they may be able to negotiate again on other things that they may be able to offer. So if they don't accept your negotiation, what could they offer? Could they offer, again, additional PTO? Could they offer training? Could they offer membership to different organizations? Could they offer, what can they offer if they can't offer additional salary, if it's a company that you're really looking to work for? And then if it's something that you just feel like, I can't accept it, then you just have to move on and cut your losses. How likely are unpublished potential positions likely to materialize? All the time. Some positions may not be posted. I'll say this. Most companies may know who they want for a position, and then they post the position to have that person apply so that it can be on record, and then they move forward. So that may be a reason. Back to another question, why you never received thank you for applying for this position, because they already knew who they wanted before they posted the position. Also, some positions are internal, so you need to know a certain level of experience. You need to have a certain level of experience within the organization in order to go to that next position. So again, they may post a position, have this person who was a level 2 to promote them to a level 3. So it does happen. However, I have had positions that were not posted, and I've reached out to candidates that I've worked with in the past, and I've said, I know about this position that I'm working on, and I think you would be a great fit for it. And I've just sent their resume over to the hiring manager, and they've interviewed them. Then we posted the position and did the whole process. So again, that's why it's important to develop those relationships with recruiters, develop those relationships with people within the industry, because they can tell you when something's coming up better than LinkedIn or Indeed can. This was a great question from Eileen Weathers. Given reported findings related to disparities coupled with increased diversity recruitment efforts, recruiters have often stated that they can't find any qualified diverse candidates. What strategies might you recommend for diverse candidates to increase their visibility in support of such initiatives, i.e. direct contact to D&I staff, ERGs, resume objectives, like denoting that in the resume objective. So you don't want to denote that in the resume, in your resume at all. Diverse professional memberships on resume, etc. So that is a great question. And I'll say that because every organization that I've worked for, that I've recruited for, I've always been a catalyst or someone, a big proponent of diversity and inclusion events. One thing that I would definitely suggest, and one thing that I have done personally with National Black MBA is that I've done career fairs with them specifically. And so with the city of Detroit, we were able to recruit about a good amount of candidates into the city of Detroit, into positions within the city, because we did that career fair together. So I think that one thing would be, D&I professionals are not recruiters. They are people, for the most part, who create programming and structure to make sure that there is access for you to be able to apply or know about opportunities within whatever organization that you're working for. Your best bet would be to work with those D&I professionals to connect you to the recruitment team, because they are not, again, they are not professional. They are not recruitment or talent acquisition professionals. I think that when you're talking about developing, having those relationships with professional organizations and diverse organizations, and seeing what kind of career fairs they can put together, like National Black MBA does the career fair every year with their conference, and whatever other organizations that you may be a part of, attending those fairs, talking to someone within that organization that may be on the board or that works for that organization, that can connect you to a recruiter from a company that is looking for diverse talent, that's always great. And also, I know for myself on LinkedIn, there are a lot of D&I professionals who are posting. They are doing events, they are doing webinars, they are doing all kinds of things. And those are great opportunities for you to connect and engage and get a really good understanding of, one, their organization, what the organization is doing, and how you can be a part of that and be a part of that change. This was a good question. Should you reach out to a recruiter after you get an automated rejection letter to get feedback on why you are not selected? Absolutely. I've had candidates who reached out to me and I told them what I could. You may not hear anything back, but that's always a good practice if you would like to reach out to them, because you can always reiterate, because I did have one position and they were just looking for someone that had more procurement experience. Well, this person was like, well, I don't have that, but I have A, B, and C. And so I was able to say, hey, you're not a fit for this position, but I think you'll be a fit for that one. So having that additional conversation may be, may land you another interview within the same company with another position. I think that I can answer one more question, and then I'm going to turn it over to Dee. Do hiring managers see involvement with D&I or ERGs as distractions and someone not serious about their job? No. They take it very seriously. It improves the culture of the organization as a whole. And as long as you're doing your job to the best of your ability, they don't have a problem with that. If anything, it increases the diversity of the organization and the strength of that. And what advice do you have for any recent graduates from undergrad looking to enter the workforce during this time? Apply, apply, apply. Get on LinkedIn, get on Indeed, build your network, and continue to connect with other like-minded professionals.
Thank you so much, Darylyn, for lending your time and your expertise. Thank you all for joining us tonight. As I mentioned at the top of the webinar, don't forget to register for our virtual conference and career fair. A link will be posted in the chat feature, as well as a survey for a chance for you to win an Amazon gift card. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.